Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
As the night deepened, we moved together naturally, lost in each other's touch. Words weren't needed anymore. We understood each other perfectly. We stayed together until morning, lost in pleasure and connection. It felt like heaven. We lay together in perfect contentment, sharing warmth and intimacy. Time seemed meaningless as we held each other close, savoring every moment of connection. My name is Andrew Miller, and I'm a 34-year-old regular office worker at a construction company in New York. Since separating from my wife 3 years ago, I've been living alone in a two-bedroom apartment. I tried to deal with my loneliness by throwing myself into work, but coming home each day to empty rooms and silence takes its toll. The fridge is full of half-eaten meals, and my once-beloved guitar sits collecting dust. Everything changed when I heard Michael was moving out. Michael, my roommate of 3 years, had become like an older brother to me. When he announced he was moving out to get married, the thought of being alone in this spacious apartment hit me hard. The empty room felt like a weight on my chest. The silence, which I'd barely noticed when Michael was around, now seemed to fill every corner, and his friendly chatter that used to brighten my evenings became just a memory. The walls seemed to grow taller, and the ceiling more distant as I realized this was now just my space. Every time I walked through the front door after work, the thought, "I'm all alone," would creep in. Just when I was wondering what to do with the empty room, two women from work approached me with an interesting proposition. The first is Fiona Cooper, our 36-year-old sales manager. Her confident stride and natural grace draw attention wherever she goes. With an engaging personality and quick wit, she's become one of our office's most respected leaders. When she smiles, her whole face lights up, making everyone around her feel at ease. The second is Rachel Wilson, a 34-year-old HR supervisor and Fiona's college friend. She has this quiet confidence that makes people instantly comfortable around her. Her thoughtful approach to everything she does and genuine warmth have earned her the trust of everyone at work. During lunch break, they surprised me with their proposal to become my roommates. Their apartment building was being torn down for redevelopment, leaving them in urgent need of a new place. They mentioned they'd lived together before, so they knew the ropes. The suggestion caught me off guard, but I couldn't ignore the way my heart skipped a beat. These two women were about to turn my life upside down. Sitting alone in the quiet apartment after Michael left, the emptiness was overwhelming. A two-bedroom place felt way too big for just one person. Then one day during lunch break, Fiona and Rachel walked over to my desk. "Hey Andrew, got a minute?" Fiona's warm smile had its usual calming effect. "Sure thing. What's up?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. Rachel nervously bit her lip before speaking. "Well, here's the thing. Our apartment building is getting demolished for redevelopment. It came out of nowhere, and we're kind of stuck without a place." The worry in her voice was clear. "So, Andrew," Rachel continued, looking at me hopefully, "we heard Michael moved out, and you've got a spare room. What do you think?" My eyes went wide. The thought of living with two women had never crossed my mind. Are you sure that would work?" I asked hesitantly. "Hey, don't worry about it," Fiona said with an easy smile. "We're all adults here, and honestly, you're one of the most trustworthy people we know." Her casual confidence helped ease my nerves. Rachel added calmly, "Plus, we've been roommates before, so we know how to make it work." She paused briefly before adding, "No pressure, but we do need to figure something out soon." I could see the concern in her brown eyes. Taking a deep breath, I replied, "Let me think about it." As I walked away, their proposal kept spinning in my head. I couldn't shake the image of Fiona's welcoming smile and Rachel's earnest gaze. For the first time in a while, I felt hopeful that my lonely days might be coming to an end. That weekend afternoon, When I opened my front door to find them both standing there with their belongings, I felt more excited than I'd expected. Fiona and Rachel stood there, each carrying their things. "Thanks for having us, Andrew." Fiona beamed as she looked around curiously. Rachel surveyed the space with obvious interest and remarked, "Wow, this is bigger than I expected. We'll be really comfortable here. Thanks for letting us move in on such short notice." Rachel gave a quick nod of appreciation. "No worries at all. This place was honestly too big for just me. But are you both really okay with this?" "Totally," Fiona replied with a grin. "We know you'll be a great roommate." After moving their things in, they settled in like they'd always been there. We gathered in the living room to sort out the household details. Fiona asked practically, "So, how should we split up the housework?" Rachel chimed in confidently, "I'm pretty good at cleaning, so I can handle that. We can divide up the rest, right?" "I'll take care of the cooking then," Fiona offered, then turned to me. "What about you, Andrew?" I answered, trying to hide my nervousness. "Well, I can do dishes and take out the trash." Fiona's laugh was warm and genuine. "Perfect. Looks like we've got everything covered." That evening, we prepared dinner together. I watched in amazement as Fiona effortlessly whipped up a delicious meal while I focused on preparing the salad. Rachel hummed happily as she set the table. "This is really nice, cooking together." As we sat around the dining table, the apartment that had felt so empty before was now filled with warmth. The sound of our laughter echoing through the rooms made my heart light with excitement for this new chapter. Living with these two unique personalities, Fiona's vibrant energy and Rachel's steady presence, had me wondering just how much our lives were about to change. That night, I went to bed with butterflies in my stomach, a mix of excitement and nerves. Within days of starting our new living arrangement, coming home took on a whole new meaning. There was always someone there to greet me, the warm glow of lights welcoming me in. It filled a void in my heart I hadn't even realized was there. One particularly exhausting evening, I walked in to find Fiona relaxing in the living room. "Welcome home," she said with a warm smile. "Rachel's pulling a late one at work today." She gestured to a steaming cup of tea on the coffee table. "You look beat. Come take a load off." Too tired to argue, I sank into the sofa. "Wow, your shoulders are like rocks," Fiona commented as she started massaging my tense shoulders. "I'm fine, really," I protested weakly, but she just laughed softly. "Don't be silly, let me help." Her fingers worked their magic, kneading away the knots. "Just relax. Let the stress melt away," she murmured. Her touch was perfect, making me sigh with relief. "This feels amazing. I've got quite a reputation for these," she replied with a hint of pride. "Everyone at my old job used to line up for my massages." The warmth from her hands seemed to seep right through me. When I glanced up, the soft lighting caught her features just right. "You're something else, Fiona," I said sincerely. A shy smile played across her lips. "Thanks, but you're working late too much." Something shifted between us in that moment, a subtle closing of distance that made my heart skip a beat. I was seeing a gentler side of her I'd never known existed. A few days later, we had our first proper dinner together in what felt like ages when Rachel made it home early. The mouth-watering aromas drew me to the kitchen, where I found her in an apron. "Did you make all this?" I asked, impressed. She nodded with a modest smile. "Fiona's been teaching me." Her voice held a note of pride. As she served up the food, she watched me expectantly. "Well, how is it?" "It's incredible," I said after the first bite, meaning every word. Her face lit up with pure joy, while Fiona looked on like a proud mentor. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm with the two of them, but I started noticing things I couldn't ignore. Rachel's morning smile and cheerful voice made my pulse quicken, and catching her in the kitchen, humming as she cooked, sent my heart racing. Then there was Fiona. Her steady, nurturing presence felt like coming home. Our late-night talks had a way of washing away the day's stress. I found myself developing deeper feelings for both of them. My heart would pound when Rachel called my name, and Fiona's touch during those shoulder massages sent electricity through my veins. Try as I might, I couldn't push these feelings aside. All I could do was wait, heart racing, to see where this path would lead us. That evening, I made it home earlier than usual. The sound of gentle laughter greeted me as I opened the door. "You're home," Rachel called out cheerfully from the kitchen, waving. Fiona sat at the table, wine glass in hand, wearing that signature warm smile of hers. "Rachel whipped up some special appetizers," Fiona said, gesturing to an impressive spread of homemade tapas and salad. "This looks like it's straight out of a restaurant," I said, genuinely impressed. Rachel beamed with pride. "Join us for a drink?" The invitation was too tempting to resist, my usual reservations melting away. As the wine flowed, the atmosphere became cozy and relaxed. "You know, Andrew," Rachel mused, slightly tipsy, "you're always so serious at work, but you've got this adorable side to you." "No way," I protested, feeling my face flush. Fiona chuckled softly. "Easy there, Rachel," she said, though her voice held a warmth that felt intimate. As we kept drinking, Rachel inched closer. "So, Andrew seeing anyone special?" The question caught me off guard. "No, work keeps me pretty busy," I admitted. "Really? Hard to believe," Rachel said, studying my face intently. Then Fiona moved to sit beside me, wine in hand. "Well, Andrew's the dependable type. I bet he's quite popular." Her soft voice sent shivers down my spine. "Not at all," I mumbled, avoiding their intense gazes. But I could feel the space between us shrinking. Rachel's fingers brushed against mine, while Fiona's hand found my shoulder. Time seemed to freeze. Their eyes held mine, and my heart thundered in my chest. "We feel safe with you, Andrew." Fiona's words hung in the air as Rachel nodded in agreement. That night, something unspoken passed between the three of us. We could feel our comfortable routine shifting into something new, something more. The living room crackled with tension. Rachel's hand still rested on mine. "It's getting warm in here. Mind if I open a window?" I could only manage a nod. As she crossed the room, the night breeze stirred the curtains. The cool air swept in, but my skin burned where Fiona pressed closer, her hand finding its way to me. Everything seemed to slow down. "Don't these quiet moments feel special in their own way?" Fiona's voice was soft and soothing. "Special?" I echoed, and she gave me a gentle smile. "Yeah, since we're all so caught up in the daily grind, times like these together." Before she could finish, Rachel chimed in from behind. "Hey now, you can't hog Andrew all to yourself. I want some quality time too." She settled next to me on the couch, close enough that our legs brushed. The proximity sent warmth rushing through me. "Andrew, you're always buried in work. When's the last time you just kicked back and enjoyed the moment?" Rachel asked, her eyes searching mine. "To be honest, I probably don't take enough time to unwind." My candid response drew a soft smile from Rachel. "Then let us help you decompress." Her fingers traced light patterns on my hand as she spoke. Fiona inched closer, her fingertips ghosting over my sleeve. "Sure, work matters, but you need moments like this too." The meaning behind her words wasn't immediately clear. Then Rachel leaned in, her whisper sending shivers down my spine. "Andrew, let us take care of you for once." That whisper made my head spin. Fiona nodded in agreement, her hand finding my shoulder. "You're always looking out for us. Let us return the favor." Her voice was gentle, but my heart was racing like crazy. Their gazes held me captive. I knew we were crossing a line there was no coming back from. Rachel slowly brought her face closer, while Fiona's hand found my waist. "Is this all right?" Rachel's voice was barely above a whisper, melting into the night air. I could only nod. Then both women embraced me, and the atmosphere shifted, becoming charged with electricity. "You're so sweet, Andrew." Rachel's words floated to my ear as she pressed against me on the couch, her body fitting perfectly against mine. "He's so reliable," Fiona said simply. "Come on, Rachel, share him a little." She tugged at my sleeve with a playful smile that didn't match the intensity in her eyes. "Is this what you want to?" I asked her. She nodded shyly. "You've been really good to us." Rachel's arms wound around mine while Fiona claimed my other hand, their warmth seeping into my skin. "Can we stay like this?" Rachel's voice quivered. Before I could respond, she drew even closer. "I'm not backing down," Fiona answered by pressing a soft kiss to my shoulder. In that moment, all rational thought vanished. Their touch made my mind go blank, washing away any doubts or concerns. Any worry about having to choose between them dissolved into meaninglessness. Rachel's gentle kiss on my neck made me shiver. Fiona's fingers traced delicate patterns across my chest, her touch both tender and passionate. "First time experiencing something like this?" Rachel's whisper was heavy with anticipation, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Pretty amazing, right?" Fiona's sweet whisper in my other ear left me speechless, my heart thundering in my chest. That night, the living room silence was broken only by our synchronized breathing. Rachel curled against my right side while my left hand explored the silken softness of Fiona's skin, her warmth radiating through my palm. The reality of being with not one but two women seemed surreal. Never in my wildest dreams had I imagined this scenario. Yet here I was, sharing this intimate moment with Rachel and Fiona that felt both dreamlike and intensely real. They took turns exploring my body with careful, loving touches. I lost myself in physical sensations I hadn't experienced in years. As desire built, my rational mind began to fade, replaced by the intoxicating feeling of their gentle caresses and warm breath against my skin. For a moment, I wondered if they'd done this before. Their movements seemed so natural, drawing out my passion with surprising skill. But I pushed the thought aside. This moment, this connection between the three of us, was too precious to question. As the night deepened, we moved together naturally, lost in each other's touch. Words weren't needed anymore. We understood each other perfectly. We stayed together until morning, lost in pleasure and connection. It felt like heaven. We lay together in perfect contentment, sharing warmth and intimacy. Time seemed meaningless as we held each other close, savoring every moment of connection. Morning light filtered into the living room as I gazed at the ceiling, lost in thought. Rachel and Fiona slept peacefully beside me, but my mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Every memory of the night before sent my thoughts spinning. Though I couldn't have predicted this turn of events just days ago, I felt no regret, only a profound awareness of how much closer we'd become. "Andrew, you're up early," Rachel murmured, her eyes fluttering open. "Just couldn't sleep," I admitted. She smiled and snuggled closer. "Any regrets about last night?" I shook my head without hesitation. How could I regret something so perfect? Rachel's eyes lowered thoughtfully at my words. "I'm still processing all of this." Rachel's eyes shimmered with emotion despite their slight trembling. A gentle rustling sound caught our attention as Fiona stirred beside us. "Morning, you too," she said softly, her gaze moving between Rachel and me. "What's on your minds?" We exchanged gentle smiles before Rachel answered, "Just talking about where we go from here." Fiona's expression turned thoughtful as she nodded. "You know, we don't have to figure everything out right away," she mused, her hand finding mine. "Why don't we just live in the moment?" Her words brought me unexpected comfort. These two women had become incredibly special to me, and though we hadn't defined what this was between us, we found ourselves sharing a perfectly normal breakfast together. The kitchen felt warm with our usual banter, last night's intensity giving way to comfortable familiarity. Still, my mind would occasionally drift to the uncertainty of it all. the mix of excitement and anxiety about where this might lead. Days began to flow together in a pleasant rhythm. Work filled my mornings, while evenings and nights belonged to them. Our intimacy felt surprisingly natural, yet undeniably extraordinary. Between Fiona's sweet smile and Rachel's warm, intelligent gaze, life took on a new dimension. Deep down, though, I knew this paradise couldn't last forever. Despite the joy of our nightly encounters, I couldn't shake the nagging worry that this would eventually end. Society wasn't ready for a relationship like ours, and keeping three hearts perfectly aligned seemed like an impossible task. We each had our own paths to follow, and sooner or later, those paths would diverge. Lying beside them at night, listening to their steady breathing, I'd wonder how much longer we had. They both had their own ambitions and dreams. Wasn't this undefined relationship just holding them back? These thoughts would weigh heavily on my mind. I tried to savor every precious moment. Our time together felt magical, but reality was always lurking around the corner. Eventually, we'd have to part ways, leaving these beautiful moments as nothing more than cherished memories. The beginning of the end came during an ordinary dinner when Fiona dropped her news. "I found a new place," she said quietly. My fork froze midway to my mouth. "Oh, really?" Rachel's voice carried a note of surprise. Fiona nodded gently, adding, "Yeah, it's a bit of a commute, but it works better for my job." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Though I'd known this day would come, hearing it out loud made it painfully real. Actually, Rachel's voice was barely above a whisper. "I've found a new place too." The silence that followed spoke volumes. That's great," was all I could manage. That night, their words echoing in my head, I questioned everything. Should I have fought harder to keep what we had? The doubt that had been simmering beneath the surface suddenly boiled over. Though I'd known this was temporary, I never expected it to end so abruptly. My chest felt tight as I realized our daily routine. Waking up together, sharing meals and laughter, and our intimate nights would soon be nothing but memories. The reality of losing them felt like watching sand slip through my fingers. No matter how tightly I tried to hold on, time kept flowing. Soon, these rooms would no longer carry their scent or echo with their voices. Only emptiness would remain. Moving day arrived all too quickly. I helped them pack in silence, our occasional small talk feeling forced and strange. "Thank you for everything, Andrew," Rachel said softly, looking down at the floor. "Yes, thank you," Fiona echoed with a gentle smile. I nodded, too choked up to properly respond. Maybe someday. I couldn't even finish the thought. After they left, the house felt impossibly empty. That night, sitting alone in the living room, the silence was deafening. Their laughter and warmth were gone, leaving only hollow spaces. Regret hit me like a tidal wave. Why hadn't I fought harder? Had I just wasted our time together on physical pleasure instead of building something real? If I'd opened up about my true feelings to either of them, or tried to make this into something more concrete, would things have turned out differently? But I caught myself. Maybe our relationship was beautiful precisely because it was fleeting. Whether it was love or just a moment of connection, it needed to become part of my past. The days that followed brought a natural end to our communication. Their silence told me everything I needed to know. Looking back now, I realize those magical days were only possible because we shared that space and time together. Those warm moments and joyful laughs were a once-in-a-lifetime miracle. I try to convince myself this is for the best. They're moving forward with their lives, and it's time for me to do the same. Sitting in my moonlit room, I let out a deep sigh. The emptiness in my heart won't heal quickly, but I have to believe we made the right choice. On this first night of my new solitude, I steel myself to face whatever comes next.